My name is Baqir Ahmed, and this is the true story of my life. It wasn't supposed to be like this. When I dreamt of caliphate, I never considered the possibility of defeat. Defeat. What does that even mean anyway? Some are still fighting, but I've given up hope. We're all defeated. I'm defeated. I currently find myself trapped in the Za'atari refugee camp in Jordan. The humanitarian workers are nice enough, but this isn't my home and I don't belong here. Very few people speak English, and whilst ISIS made me study Arabic for 3 years now, I still struggle with even the everyday communication. I'm considered the lucky one, the one that got away, but I've seen war firsthand. I've seen so many people, my people, killed before my very eyes. Yet I survived. The war is over now, but how I envy those no longer here to witness this humiliation. I can never undo the past, but I want to go home, back to the UK. The man I share my tent with, Abdul, says I have no chance, that the British state will make an example of me. Perhaps they're right. Perhaps that's what I deserve. I feel the odd one out, but my story is not unique. Some days I just sit in this camp all alone, waiting for someone to come along and treat me like a human. It reminds me of my school days, those lonely, empty days in the playground. I wanted to join in with the others. I wanted to play their games. But to them I was just a foreign brown boy from a foreign family. And although I could speak perfect English, in their eyes I was still speaking a foreign language. In the playground, no one ever came over to me. I knew I was destined to be alone. As I speak, a couple of the refugee boys are playing football together. Oh, how I would have loved to have been able to play football as a child. I was a poor boy in a rich town. My situation is different today. Here everyone can unite in their equal misery and poverty. In my town, the place I used to call home, I was excluded from partaking in society. I never met the expectations of those around me. Was it because I was Muslim, or was it because my clothes were dirty from the week before? Probably both. You know, I will never forget the looks of disdain from the white parents as I would walk home from school. But I was never jealous, not as a young child at least. Young children accept their fate. They accept the fact that in society there is always the rich man in his castle, whilst people like me are the poor man at his gate. One day, I would come to realize that this indoctrination needed to be defeated. I was prepared to take on the fight. I slept badly last night. I never sleep well. Every night Abdul screams in rampant fits of terror. The medics say he's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, but he hasn't witnessed anything I haven't. Yet I don't suffer from this. Again, I'm told that I'm the lucky one, but even then I sometimes envy Abdul, because for the moments where he is lost in the terror of his mind, he is far, far away from something much worse, and that's this living nightmare called reality. But last night was different. There were air raids in a neighbouring town. The blast shook the ground beneath my feet, but I wasn't shaking. I wasn't nervous. It refocused my mind as to why I was here in the first place. You see, it was not so long ago that in my little English town, far away from any war zone, I came home from secondary school to bear witness to the heartache and devastation caused by the West. My mother was collapsed on the floor, paralyzed from the grief that had overwhelmed her. I slowly but cautiously approached the lifeless body that was stuck to the ground, seemingly unable to move. She was alive, but I soon found out that my grandma had been killed in a US-UK airstrike in Syria. The British government, my government, had destroyed my world, and I sought retribution. I wasn't violent. I didn't need to be. I never caused harm to fellow man. Following the death of my grandma, for me the rules of society had changed. I knew that they were obsolete, and that if my government could defy morality, then so could I. But that didn't give me the right to hurt others who were also victims of generations of brainwashing by Western propaganda. Allah gave me the gift to be able to see through the corruption, and I'm eternally grateful. I don't lament my lost childhood. It made me the man I am today. It taught me that in this world you have to look out for yourself, that no one cares whether you live or die. In this camp I am hungry. I steal food to survive. But as a teenager in England, I stole for the fun of it. I would steal bread, stamps, anything I could set my hands on. I didn't even like the stuff I stole. It would mostly end up in the bin. Only once was I caught. I was stealing a book from the town's local bookstore. The security guard knew I had the money on me and didn't understand my motivations. Of course he wouldn't understand. I didn't want him to understand. I loved it. This was my way of saying, up yours to the system. I enjoyed the thrill because my life was boring. I had nothing else to do. A few years later, at the very beginning of adulthood, I moved away from Middle England and into the freedom of London. I had a cousin in Tower Hamlets who had promised to look out for me and show me a new way of life. I don't think I was fully aware what this new life would actually entail. Every evening at the dark of night, we would set out in search of properties that were obviously empty. We would ransack the places. We could break in so quickly. We were like Americans who discovered oil. We left sadness and destruction in our wake. I kind of felt sorry for the people. But these were big houses for rich people, and they were part of the system that had robbed me of my chances of success. In a way, they had it coming. One night we were going about our usual business. We scaled the walls of this Victorian mansion in Hampstead. We finally managed to enter the house through the back bedroom. I felt like something was wrong. It just didn't feel right. I slowly walked down the stairs when all of a sudden, as my eyes adjusted to the half light, it slowly revealed the silhouettes of 3 police officers who'd been waiting for us to fall like mice into their traps. It was all over. A friend had betrayed us. I was sentenced to 2 years in prison, but released after just 1 for good behaviour. The court may have won the legal battle, but they were soon to find out that they had lost the battle of ideas. It's been 4 years since I was released from prison. Yet every day since has felt like a life behind bars. In this refugee camp, I get up, eat, pray, walk, eat, pray, sleep, repeat. In prison I didn't mind so much. I knew what to expect from my day. Of course back then, at least at the beginning, I didn't pray at all. I met a man. He was also called Abdul, and he helped me realize the errors of my ways. I'd never had that before. Life in the UK was tough. I was poor, with no future job prospects. To the country I called home, I was expendable. Abdul, and for the sake of clarity, I will call him Abdul 1, initiated our interactions. After a while he spoke about my responsibility to fight for Allah, to fight for what is right, to fight against the aggressors and those who killed my family with impunity. He told me I could lead a meaningful life, where I could take pride in my work, that I could be proud of myself and what I do. I had never felt proud of myself. I was the failure, the guy who had dropped out of life. But he made me realize that I wasn't the problem. It wasn't me that was different as a child growing up. The problem was with them. The problem was with the children in the playground and their parents, not me. He told me I should join the Islamic State, and so I did just that. I wasn't a radical until I went into prison, but my time in jail helped me reflect and understand my calling. I had ignored Allah for too long, but now I was ready. I was ready to go to my true home, to the Caliphate. Since leaving the UK, I haven't spoken to anyone back home. ISIS said it would be a distraction from the task in hand. When you leave, you leave. There can be no going back. Yesterday that all changed. I was advised to engage in media interviews as a way to start a dialogue with the British authorities. I don't think it went very well. In fact, it rather set me back. I wasn't ready to start answering questions just like that. One minute you're fighting for ISIS, then you suddenly find yourself at the mercy of journalists who come from the very nation that for years I had vowed to destroy. This man came to my tent, offered me money with a smirk on his face. Money can't buy what I need, and he knew that. Oh, how he was so happy to have made this media scoop. A world exclusive with a disgraced terrorist. He was well aware that this was his moment, and golly did he love every minute of it. I felt like I was on trial, but I didn't have anyone to come to my defense, anyone to stand up for me. It was like I was with a judge who had already decided their verdict before hearing from the accused. I can still hear his coarse Scottish voice scolding me as if I were a child. He knew that I couldn't admit that I have regrets, even though I most certainly do. He knew that he was leading me into a trap. It's one of those situations where you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. He relished in making me look exactly what I am, and that's a stupid fool, a lowlife who ran away from his family to join a terrorist organisation that made him feel special. I put my trust in a group that used me like a pawn. I was their cannon fodder, but I was too naive to realise I'm a fool. And I've been so stupid, so weak, so feeble. What I've done to myself, my family, my friends. I never want to think of the hardship I've caused them because of my recklessness. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. Please forgive me, for I have sinned. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I had to stop the tape. I find it hard to look back. It's much easier just to block everything at the back of your thoughts. My mind is like a ticking time bomb. Tick, tick, tick. I don't know when it will explode, but my days are numbered. I was forced to see this humanitarian psychiatric doctor, but I stopped attending after just a couple of sessions. I didn't need some jumped-up woman to feel sorry for me. She said that she was here to help, that she wanted to understand what she could do for me. I've fallen for that trap before. I won't make the same mistake again. When I was 17, there was this girl called Sophie in my maths class. One day a group of boys, the usual suspects, giggled at me. They were trying to belittle me. Sophie told them to stop, and they did. Over the course of the semester, we became close. We studied together. We even went to the shopping mall one Saturday. She became the only positive thing in my life, until the final week of school, when I asked her to marry me. She laughed so loudly. At first, she thought I was joking, until she could see the tears rolling down my face. After that moment, she didn't want to see me anymore. She avoided me in the school, in the corridors, in the local town. She told her friends and everyone laughed. I was humiliated. She made me less of a man, and I vowed never to trust a woman again. Britain is a lonely place. In the West, we are all suffering in this dystopian existence. We live in a world of disconnect, where the haves can oppress the opinions of the have-nots, where people become absorbed by technology in a way that creates divisions between human beings. I cannot tell you how refreshing it was to arrive in Raqqa. There was a sense of belonging. You fought and died for the same cause. It didn't matter if you were British, Canadian, Dutch, American, black or white. These identities no longer mattered. We were Muslim, the loyal children of Allah. Could I ever say the same thing about my country, about my Britain? In the UK, your identity is formed at the end of your street. People live for names, the class system, and if, like me, you don't fit a particular label, well, you'll always be considered the outsider. You can't say I didn't try. I didn't want to be an outsider. I knew my views were different, but I still tried to find a platform. Like everyone else, I had interests. I wanted to be engaged in politics. When I left prison, I didn't just join ISIS immediately. I joined the Labour Party. But after just 6 months, I was expelled for supposedly holding extreme views that were not compatible with Labour Party values, whatever that means. They found me too aggressive, because I once dared to challenge those who supported the war in Iraq. Even then I didn't give up. I didn't take this political rejection to mean it was over. I had a voice, and I wanted it to be heard. I then sought to create my own party, but before we'd even organised our first meeting, we were outlawed by the British authorities. This was the final straw. I had sought to achieve my objectives through peaceful means. We were told we were extremists, but I wasn't. The British state and everything it represented made me an extremist. I had done everything within my power to engage in the democratic process. I realised they wanted to silence me because I was a threat to their power, a threat to their propaganda. But why should you listen to me? These are just the ramblings of a madman. There's no point going on. I have nothing to live for. The people have already made up their minds, and I'm guilty until proven innocent, and I have nothing to prove my innocence. I've climbed to the top of the camp's electricity pylon. There's no electricity. The only way out of this life is to jump. All I wanted was to be accepted. I didn't want to be rich or famous. I just wanted to lead a normal life. You made me violent. You made me an extremist. I couldn't inspire love from you, so I decided to terrorize everything that represented my rejection, my country, my people. There was a voice at work inside my mind. It's telling me to jump. I'm not a fallen angel, but I became the devil because of you, because of my loneliness. I am evil because I am miserable, and I am miserable because of you. I leave this tape recording at the top. Someone might find it one day. Maybe they'll be interested. When I jump, it'll all be over. I can start my new life. It can't be worse than this. And for anyone who cares to listen, just remember, this was the true story of my life.